So my next question for you is, if you're a creative and maybe you have, some your intellectual property, but you also, or a sports player, some of the stuff happens with them as well. And there's all these people who are vying for your attention. How do you make sure to protect your creative work and still sure to be able to play the game? Because like that stuff requires managers or people who own song rights and other things like that. And just an anecdote because I wanted to share it earlier. An article that we're going to share on your feed about NSYNC. That one of the guys from NSYNC that basically their manager embezzled a huge amount of money, enough to go to jail for a very long time.
Yes, and that has happened for people that you have some clients that they can't think about it, they don't want to think about it because their motivation and drive is just to keep feeding what their creative side. Well, that's okay. That's where trust comes in. That's where comes in developing a relationship and understanding who you can trust and who you can't. If you have someone that profits from their relationship with you based on volume or how much money they make, it's not always good. And there's often nobody watching the manager. And it's tons of people and people who started out acting and singing and very early in their life, their parents were their managers. And later, what a sad thing, they have to sue their parents in order to recover money. And so that's a very difficult thing. And people need to look at how they go into these relationships. People have discovered a while back after seeing what happened to a few generations of songwriters that they need to retain their rights to that intellectual property, their trademark, their stuff. If it's worth a lot, they have it to use. If it's not worth much, they still have it to use, but it's theirs. I had a client who wrote a lot of songwriter, very successful, but he used a sort of business model to his approach. Every day he went to work at his office writing stuff that became very good and was well received. And then later, he also learned that he saved everything because he never knew what was going to be there. So he was able to have every notebook and every piece of paper that he'd ever written a song on. If it's a napkin, it's whatever. And he was able to gift that to a museum and it was a wonderful thing for the recipient. And it was a wonderful thing for him because he was able to get a tax credit. And by getting that tax credit, that meant he had more money available to gift to charity and other stuff like that. So it's a process. And so you have to keep learning and you have to keep growing. And if you're not interested in something, then how are you going to lock down your prudence and your safety in dealing with this type of investment? So I think there are a lot of ways to go about it, but ultimately it has to suit both the client and the person helping them. Some people in the past and have used services or the services of people like me to not have to say no to a friend about an investment that they don't want to make or they don't know what it is. They hate to say no to their friends, but that's okay. Send it to us. Tell us what you're looking for and send it to me, and then we'll go over it and see if it's a good idea for you. Often it's not, but that enables me to just say right now, that's not, we don't have a spot in the portfolio for an investment of this type. And sometimes you don't. If you have clients that that have virtually every client I had has a certain amount of money in real estate. They live in a house, they have some other houses. So that helps you help them keep an eye on who's doing what. And by having more people, not too many people, but several people in the circle, your client doesn't get pressured into doing something that they're not even sure what it is, and they don't know how to get out of it, because people selling deals have generally had a lot more sales training than people have had in saying no. So that's another function. Sometimes you're a policeman, sometimes you're a social worker, sometimes you're a teacher. Those are the elements of helping people with their money. It's not like, I don't believe that you can just throw 60 pages in a 3-ring binder up and flip through it and there's much satisfaction in that, because I've sat in a lot of those meetings with a lot of people, and you can see the clients glazed over after about page 8, and often doesn't get the opportunity to ask questions, often doesn't even know how to state their question. They can say, well, what happens if, and to which they'll be blown off usually. Well, we've never really had that happen. Well, what have you had happen? Well, just tons of success. Well, I would not walk towards that. I would run away from that. And I certainly don't know anything, but everything by a long shot. But after over 40 years dealing in this area of people and their money, if a guy can't explain to me the deal in a way that even halfway makes sense in about a minute or two, then I'm distrustful of it. So I think we're there to help our clients, and we're there to not help them self-destruct. We're there to help them grow and learn and achieve their dreams and hopes and help others. That's my take on what my job is.